1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day, or whop it up thee straight away? It rhymes.
All that training.
Oh, yes, I've done... Oh, God, I've done the classics, yes. Good evening. Welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Martin Clunes. In the news this week, during a crucial conference debate on the economic crisis, one Labour Party delegate finally completes his Sudoku. In a keynote speech, Gordon Brown assures party members that Peter Mandelson has a plan that will win Labour the next election. And outside the Vatican, Margaret Thatcher is surprised to spot something she donated 20 years ago to an Oxfam shop. On Ian Hislop's team tonight, a TV reviewer and broadcaster who's described himself as no current affairs expert. So I don't know why he's appearing on this show. Oh, yeah, he's got a book out. Please welcome Charlie Brooker. And with Paul Merton tonight is a choreographer who's brought her high-energy dancing skills to many hit TV shows. Good luck tonight, love. Please welcome Arlene Phillips. And we start with the bigger stories of the week. Ian and Charlie, here we go again.
Oh, someone opening a letter. They've got one. I don't know how they did that. Cup of tea?
Oh, it's Mr. Popular.
Oh, yes, this is Gordon's cleaners, presumably. This is MP's expenses.
Yes.
They got back from the summer to find a letter from Sir Thomas Legge asking them to pay the money back, which they'd claimed. And they're all furious. I mean, rightly. I mean, you appoint someone to look into a scandal, you don't expect them to clean it up. I don't know where they've been.
It's disgraceful competence, he said.
I think he should be sacked for it.
They are absolutely furious, aren't they? He's basically gone back and retrospectively applied some rules.
Yes, and they said, look, it's not fair, because we fiddled our expenses, but at the time, no one noticed. And now they have, and that is retrospectively unfair.
Well, what powers does he have to make them repay it?
None.
Can you send them a sternly worded letter?
Well, there's
in a really imposing font.
Yeah. There's a...
Terrifying.
On stiff card.
Well, he has to submit this report to a committee of MPs, and do you know what they could do with it?
They could reject it.
They could reject it, they could approve it, or they could give it to the House of Commons to vote on. And what did Jackie Smith have to do this week?
She had to apologise. She didn't have to pay anything back, though, because you have to pay back the small amounts, you know, a couple of grand for cleaning, but £100,000 if you've fiddled, you don't have to pay back. You just have to apologise gracelessly. So, no, she's going to go to the House of Lords, apparently. Really, she's going to take a title. Perhaps one of the films her husband enjoys.
Yes.
Is there any way that MPs could get more unpopular?
We could find out a bit more about them.
Oh, I
know. Lord Oakeshott said shamed MPs should not stroll into the House of Lords. He was loudly cheered by Lord Archer, the Cash for Questions peers, and Lord Paul, who's worth 500 million and currently being investigated for claiming 38 grand on a flat he's never stayed in. Do you know how he defended himself?
He said, I could have stayed there. It was a flat in a hotel which one of his employees was actually living in. So he couldn't have stayed there, and he had no intention of staying there.
Maybe he didn't mind sharing a bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you're suggesting something serious.
David Cameron has apparently paid back £600. Do you know what he was claiming for?
Is this the wisteria?
Do you know where it was?
All over his house.
It was in his Argos chimney. He's the man of the people, isn't he?
He's got wisteria growing up a chimney.
Up his Argos chimney.
Up his Argos chimney. I'm surprised he can walk straight.
So what else has been in the news lately?
Oh, the fire sale. Everything's for sale.
Oh, that.
You mean
yeah.
the deficit reduction plan?
Yeah, everything. the big jumble sale.
Yes.
Everything must go.
But they're selling a bookmakers. I didn't know there was a state-owned bookmakers.
Is there?
Am I right in thinking the Royal Mint is up for
couldn't-
sale?
Yes.
This is just desperate. He announced it because he couldn't think of anything else. The Tories came up with a plan to save money, i.e. you all work another year, which I'm sure was very popular amongst everyone, and he needed an immediate fire sale. So he said, what have we got? We'll sell off the Dartford Crossing, the Duke of Edinburgh... I may have made that up.
Are going to be torn down and turned into flats? Is that what I heard?
Well, they're hoping to raise £16 billion to pay off. Do you know how much the debt is, according to the Scotsman? That's the newspaper, not the Prime Minister.
It's nearly $1 trillion.
Nearly $1 trillion.
If you buy the Royal Mint, can't you just print money?
Yeah.
Print the amount that you paid for it?
Yeah.
Why aren't you Chancellor?
I've asked myself that many a time. What if a mad oligarch buys it and, like, puts photos of his dogs on all the banknotes or something? Or issues coins made of butter? Have they looked into these possibilities?
Well, the
course
possibility
they
that somebody
have.
might buy the mint and issue coins made out of butter.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing they don't think of, and then
Yeah.
5 years later, we're all looking stupid.
It's been the party conference season. Peter Mandelson was never off the telly. Let's have a look at his most cringeworthy speech section.
And yes, we do start that fight as underdogs. But, conference, let me say this. If I can come back, we can come back.
I love the subtext of that. If I can recover from a, dodgy mortgage problem with a loan that wasn't quite declared, why not apply that nationally?
Have a look at them during Alistair Darling's speech. See how that went down.
The people who led the way in stopping the recession, turning into global depression, were our government and our Prime Minister, Gordon Brown.
The phrase global depression.
And meanwhile, Newsnight's Michael Crick was asking people to play a sort of amusing political game in the corridor, but Mandelson tapped up. Have a look at this.
Maybe you don't think there should be any cuts?
Well, there will be.
I couldn't come back and do it later after I've addressed the Social Market Foundation and Progress Organisation on the future relationship between the state and market.
Yeah.
The big story is, of course, the expenses row, which has caused universal outrage and indignation. According to The Telegraph, one anonymous cabinet minister said, "This whole thing is Gordon's fault." Adding, I'm sorry, what was the question again? Despite breaking the rules over expenses, it looks like Jackie Smith will be given a seat in the House of Lords, though no doubt she'll still claim the House of Commons as her main residence. Paul and Arlene, here's yours.
There's Barack Obama. He's appearing in a one-man show, but nobody knows. Yes, this. I think that's Alfred Nobel. It must be the Nobel Peace Prize.
What's that?
That's something you really shouldn't know about. He did win the Nobel Peace Prize, so that's what it is, I think. That's why he's...
Do you know what he was being honoured for with the Nobel Peace Prize?
For peace.
In a very short space of time, he created
And people
world
were
peace.
surprised, but they haven't published the shortlist, which I happen to know.
Yes.
It was him,
Yeah.
Osama, President Ahmadinejad, and Blair.
Maybe it was just their relief it was no longer George Bush as president, so they just they were an overwhelming feeling of exuberance, they gave it to him.
Well, that's what the Sun's theory was, that
was it?
he got it for just simply not being George Bush. So.
Well, in that case, we should all get
all
one.
be- yeah, we could, easily, yeah. And do you know what the most important immediate consequence of the announcement?
Twitter crashed.
Twitter crashed completely, and Stephen Fry had to talk to real people. And Twitter went into meltdown over something else this week, didn't it, Ian?
Oh, it went into meltdown over an attempt to roll back 300 years of freedom of the press in Parliament. Is that what you're referring to?
Oh, well, yes, I think it is, yes.
Oh, good.
Go, 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 Ian.
Oh, no, I'll come and visit you.
Yeah.
I would. Most weekends I would. I really would.
It's a fairly simple story. There's a company called Trafigura, well worth remembering, and they were accused of dumping toxic waste on the Ivory Coast. And at the same time, though obviously there's no connection, a lot of people were very badly injured. And then Trafigura paid out £30 million. Obviously it was nothing to do with them. They didn't admit liability, because, you know, you would pay £30 million to people who'd had nothing to do with them being injured. So the Guardian newspaper got a really good bit of information about this story. So they rang up Trafigura, who immediately rang their lawyers, didn't answer the question, said, here's an injunction, you can't publish this, and you can't publish the fact that we're gagging you. Now, that's fairly outrageous. That means you can't publish at all. So an MP raised the question, and the London lawyers of Trafigura, Carter Ruck, who specialise in reputation management, an MP in your Houses of Parliament tried to raise this issue, and the lawyers said the press can't report what's happening in Parliament. So Twitter went into meltdown, various stupid people published the question that the MP had raised. Actually, only one person did. That was Private Eye. And the Guardian said they were going to court because it's their story and they'd sort of taken it that way, and Carter Ruck backed down. They were basically told to Carter Ruck off. And it was a terrific victory for freedom of the press, for the Guardian, and probably not for Trafigura and Carter Ruck and dumping toxic stuff in the Ivory Coast. Is that the right answer?
Yes, I think that's... yes. So we talked about the Nobel Prizes, and let's not forget the Ig Nobel Prizes, awarded every year around this time for research or discoveries that cannot or should not be reproduced. This year's Ig Nobel Prize for Literature was won by the Irish police. They issued more than 50 traffic tickets to the country's most frequent driving offender, Mr. Prawo Jazdy, whose name turns out to mean driving licence in Polish. It's not hard to see what happened there, is it? The Ig Nobel Prize for Public Health was awarded to 3 researchers from Chicago who invented a bra that can be quickly converted into a pair of gas masks. Well, they say quickly.
It doesn't explain how you get the bra off the person's head. In the attempt of a gas attack, it's small talk is at a premium.
Just keep an eye on him, Arlene. So this is the controversial announcement that after only 9 months in office, President Obama has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The decision to award the coveted Nobel Prize to Obama wasn't welcomed by everyone. A spokesman for the Taliban said, Mr. Obama should get a Nobel Prize for violence. Or as the Taliban call it, the coveted Nobel Prize for violence. Forging on to round 2, it's the jigsaw of news.
Jigsaw
Buzz,
of news?
The jigsaw of news.
Blimey.
Yes. Buzz when you know what the story is.
OK.
Charlie?
It's the machine that's going to strip you naked, whether you want it to or not, that they're trialling at Manchester Airport.
That's right, yeah.
Is that right? So you don't have to get frisked, which is the highlight of most holidays for me. Is that out the window?
They've described it as less embarrassing than coming across... No, it's less embarrassing than...
Fumbling your lines.
I've read a lot so far. It's not easy, is it? They've said that it'll avoid...
What?
Sorry, my E's just kicked in.
It's the other vowels you ought to worry about.
They said that it'll avoid embarrassing pat-down checks, which are considered less embarrassing than coming across a grainy black and white close-up of your Johnson on YouTube. But you can still opt for the pat-down if you prefer. That's an extra tenner on Ryanair.
Is Johnson named after anyone in particular? Boris or...
Ulrika? Who knows?
They're claiming that it's not erotic. But if you're into ghost porn...
Readers' X-ray wives.
It's nice to know, isn't it? It's nice to know that, because they're saying it's all right, yes, they're not going to see your face, they're not going to know who you are, it's somebody in a separate room. That's what I like to think. If somebody's going to look at me naked, I want it to be a man sitting in a windowless room, peering at a close-up of my genitals. That's really going to set me at ease.
Digestive biscuits.
Yeah. Anybody know how these scanners work?
Yeah. Some sort of X-ray machine, I think. I don't know.
It actually happened to me at Gatwick. I think they were testing it. Some of us were invited to
into
go
the
through
Nuditron.
But it wasn't a man alone in a room.
Really?
It was
There's a whole
two
bunch of them.
sniggering gits from Customs who thought it was very funny.
Let's look at your Doc Johnson.
Yeah, Doc Johnson.
On the news, it made a lot of people...
Very happy.
...that spoke, very happy, and they felt safer.
That's because they can't hear the laughter from the room next door.
Well, yeah, but that's just common sense. You don't want the laughter piped into the room where people are...
How long before the
Here he
system...
comes, old bent cock. You don't want to hear that, do you? You don't want to hear that when you've got your luggage. That's not the room's basic human decency, though.
That's what they do. The terrorists would just get people with really weird genitals.
Yes.
To hide it, you could hide it, you could have a rocket launcher up here.
Yeah.
And they'd be so busy staring down there.
Doesn't that look like Tony Benn? And you don't suddenly that's... Yeah, I know, that's what you're saying, yeah.
Right, here's another one for you. Buzz when you know what it is.
That's the Hadron Collider, isn't it?
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
I'm quite wrong. It's Stargate.
Somebody has claimed that nature is stopping it from working. That's a really advanced scientist is claiming that.
Do you know what the Hadron Collider is suspected of doing?
What it's suspected of doing? Is it sentient now?
Yeah.
It's big enough. I'm not actually a real scientist, I should point out, just to clear that up.
It hasn't been charging people for its cleaning, has it?
According to two highly respectable scientists, the £4 billion Hadron Collider might be sabotaging itself from the future.
Sabotaging itself from the future?
Well, do you know any of the theory of what the Large Hadron Collider is attempting to achieve?
Yes, I do, actually.
Oh. Bring it on, big fella.
Yeah, OK, you've got one set of molecules here, right? And you've got another set of molecules here, and then what you do is you fire them at each other at approximately 37 miles per hour, or even faster if you've got it on the 5 button, and they collide together, and when they collide together, they create a whole new sort of... I don't know.
OK. They're hunting for the Higgs boson, which is a theoretical... tiny particle that could be a building block for all life. And according to the Telegraph, this particle is so abhorrent to nature that its discovery would ripple backward through time and stop the collider before it could find it.
But then Arnie would arrive.
The Telegraph simplified it for their readers. They said it was akin to Marty McFly endangering his own existence in Back to the Future films. Meanwhile, the editor of The Star didn't understand the story at all, so he ran with one about a man having sex with a walnut instead.
Was it pickled?
Was afterwards.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Wait a minute. If it's sabotaging itself from the future, it must work. But it doesn't work. So it's making itself not work in the present because it works in the future.
It doesn't have to work in order to sabotage itself. It's come back from the future.
But that means it works.
No, no. That's not what it's trying to do. It's not built to sabotage itself. It's built to make thingies.
It's built to make thingies. It is.
It is.
It's built to make thingies.
It is.
Important,
Yes. One of the men behind the theory, Dr. Nielsen, announced his shock finding that the future can come back to affect the present at a press conference in Geneva held next April. Fingers on buzzers, teams.
We still don't know what it means.
This is the news that 100-year-old Australian great-grandmother Ruth Frith has broken the world record for putting the shot at the World Masters Games. Let's have a look at her doing her stuff.
She's 100, did you say?
Yes. That's her putting the javelin and letting go back.
Is she doing these things against her will?
Against her knowledge.
Yeah, against her knowledge.
The category she entered was shot put, women aged 100 to 104. Anybody know how many competitors in that group?
Her.
Yes, just the one. Yes. Other competitors notably taking part in this were Denmark's Crown Prince Frederick and Shane Warne's mum.
Was this a dream?
There was a rule change that 82-year-old John Rigby fell foul of in the men's 80 to 84 years steeplechase. He lost his third-place position in the 2-kilometre run after he technically sat on a hurdle. Do you want to see a picture of him technically sitting on a hurdle? Of course you do.
Oh, no.
Yes, this is the news that in Sydney an 100-year-old woman has set a new world record for the shot put. According to The Independent, there were cheers when Mrs. Frith broke the record. Mind you, there are cheers every morning when she wakes up. Probably couldn't get a job on Strictly Come Dancing, though, could she? Arlene, do you want to tell us about all that? Address the nation? Yes, what went on? Why have they done that? What did they say?
I know what the newspapers said. What the newspapers said was 66. But that was the newspapers.
Yeah.
My age goes with my name from now on. There's no Arlene Phillips anymore. It's only Arlene Phillips. 66.
Yeah.
That'll change next year. It really will.
I think they felt that my time had come on the show. No one keeps him together.
How can your time have come when Brucey's is still rolling on? I bet he's been in the Hadron Collider. So, Anton, then, what's he like?
Who?
Anton Dubik.
Anton!
This is a man who's never seen the show but has read about it. So he mispronounces some of the names as he's read them. Some dancers are a bit thick outside of dance, and it's true.
Very often they are not taught to think for themselves.
Right, because people are shouting 1-2 at you all the time.
1-2, that's it, basically.
Actually,
1-2,
no.
1-2. No, you're doing 2-1. You're doing 2-1.
Actually, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yes.
That's how you count a dancer in. That's why they have such trouble, sort of, in the real world, because that's all they hear. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, it's like being in hot gossip here.
Have you got stockings and suspenders on?
Go on, give us a bit of warning, will you?
Fingers on buzzers, teams.
This is about new guidelines about what comedy can and can't do. You mustn't humiliate people. There's various things. You mustn't use fish-based puns. There's a whole bunch of stuff that used to be considered acceptable but no longer is.
That's right, yes. Yeah. Intimidation, humiliation, intrusion, aggression, or derogatory remarks.
Or fish-based puns.
Or fish-based
like
puns.
I've got a haddock, or something like that. Or... Would you lie on your back and fill it? You know, that sort of thing. Fish-based puns. We've grown out of them. It's not fair. It's not fair to the fish. They can't answer back.
They can't. It's soulless.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey, that was rubbish.
Once you knew the fish-based pun was taken away from you, you would know we want it back, and you cheered soulless. That was fantastic. Did it for the halibut.
It is a bit horse and stable, this, really, isn't it? I mean, there's a whole floor at the BBC which is working out how to really lock that stable up as Jonathan Ross runs away. I mean, the whole thing's based on one incident. That was it. Someone messed up very badly. Now we have compliance directives saying don't be rude to people. I mean, some of us, you know, got a living to make.
Yes, and something else that it's going to change the so-called watershed under the new guidelines.
Oh, yes.
9 p.m. watershed signals the beginning of the transition to more adult material, but the change should not be abrupt.
So if you're going to swear, you sort of do it with a stutter. You stupid for that. It's 9:15, fat face. Is that how it works?
Yes, something like that.
Oh, my God.
We did have a...
But is that what they mean? Fawlty Towers, Blackadder, all those sort of people being rude, The Office,
Laurel and
humiliating...
Hardy. Yep.
Tom and Jerry.
The Three
That's
Stooges.
really cruel.
Let's have a look at exactly the sort of thing that will be banned in the future.
Oh. Get a clean one. It's clean now. Dirty now.
There you go. Nothing funny in that.
Well, I think it's particularly poor taste to show Andrew Sachs being put down like that. The whole business.
These are the new BBC compliance guidelines that are clamping down on swearing and violence on TV. According to the guidelines, even after 9 o'clock, strong language must be clearly signposted. Well, it's 9:21, so I suppose we're... Oh, my watch is fast. BBC Trust issued further guidelines on what was acceptable comedy. Jokes must be proportionate to their target, said a po-faced woman of a certain age. Time now for the odd one out round. Just one between you this week.
Yep.
Your four are Zsa Zsa Gabor, Lord Sir Alan Sugar of Clapton, Lloyd Grossman and Arlene Phillips.
Some people here have been asked to do things for the government. Alan Sugar was asked to do
Gardening.
something with enterprise.
Advice on
young
enterprise,
people, you know. Lloyd Grossman, he did something for the government.
Hospital
you know.
food.
Before
Hospital
Jamie Oliver came along, he was
Hospital
the man,
food.
yeah. I've been asked to be the dance champion for the government, so we're all linked in that way. And Zsa Zsa Gabor is pretty blonde.
No, I think the reason's even sillier than that. They're all Zars except her, and she's a Zsa Zsa.
Oh.
That is exactly the answer. You don't get the point, though.
Yeah,
Arlene got that answer. You just did a cheap Zsa Zsa joke. You don't get a point for that. Arlene got the answer right. She had the facts.
That's
she had
fine.
the knowledge.
I'm very happy with that.
Swanning at the end. I think you get a point.
It was really clever.
What does a dance czar do?
That was the name actually given to me by the newspapers, who also said I was
You're actually the dance
too
commandant.
old. No, it's a dance champion, and we go around the country encouraging people that want to dance and find them places where they can dance, make it accessible, free and easy for people to sample dance to get their body and minds a little healthier than maybe they were before we came along.
Have you tried Brucey?
How do you mean? And Baron Sugar of Clapton in the borough of
Baron
Hackney.
Sugar, is that his name?
The Baron Sugar.
Baron Sugar.
Sounds like a
Did he buy
pantomime
that bit?
character, doesn't it? Oh, yes, he is.
Did he buy the Baron bit, or was he given it?
I'm not empowered
What
to
an
tell you that.
appalling suggestion.
Awful. That lovely
Being
man.
all
mean that.
diplomatic about your own life and then suggesting someone else bought their peerage.
No, you know how people buy sort of areas and houses because they go with a title in the area in the house, and he's rich enough to do that.
Oh, I
wasn't
see.
being impolite to him.
Right.
He's rich enough to do this. He's also modest enough to say that he took the post for the need of the country. Isn't that lovely?
That's good.
We're What evidence is there to suggest that he might not be the ideal candidate to be the enterprise czar?
Amstrad computers are shit.
Well, in 2005, he famously said, next Christmas, the iPod will be dead, finished, gone, kaput.
You know when the Queen got an iPod? Apparently, someone tried to explain it to her and said, it goes with you wherever you are and it plays whatever tune you like. She said, oh, like the Grenadier Guards.
Perfect. Oh, and Lloyd Grossman was the NHS hospital food czar, as you said, between 2001 and 2006. Not everybody was thrilled at these showbiz appointments. Anne Widdecombe, to name just one. Did anybody see what she had to say?
Well, first it's Alan Sugar, now it's Arlene Phillips. I think Gordon Brown must spend all his time watching television. Certainly he seems to be every bit as celebrity-obsessed as a teenage girl.
Some politicians...
Some what? Some Polynesians.
Politicians!
Yeah. Oh, Polynesians.
For God's sake, listen.
I'm listening. Polynesians. They're new words, are they? Just turned in to call my bluff. Polynesians. Well, it's a kind of walnut that's also a fruit.
Some politicians are rather easier to persuade, though, aren't they?
Yes.
So we have a look.
And the winner of this award is Lord Mandelson. You going to move?
The words barking tree and wrong spring to mind. And TV presenter Fiona Phillips was offered a job by Gordon Brown, but she turned it down. But she nevertheless stumped up for the party. Here she is introducing Alan Johnson at the Labour conference. It's another Johnson.
He's honest. He appeals to people. People love him. A rare attribute these days amongst politicians, it has to be said, but he possesses that unique attribute. He is very, very likeable. I love him. I know that. I officially want that to be known here today. I love Alan Johnson, but people love him. He's a proper person. He's a real person who understands real people. What's he doing behind me? Can you see my heart thumping from here? I love you too, Jack, I have to say. I don't mind.
Yeah. Only Jack got her pants, though. Fiona Phillips there doing her best to boost the election chances of David Cameron. So they've all been government czars, except for Zsa Gabor, who is, of course, not a czar, but a Zaza. Zaza's been married 9 times. Her shortest marriage was to Felipe de Alba from the 18th of April 1983 to the 14th of April 1983.
So she went back in time. From the 18th to the 14th.
Some of these 3s look a lot like 8s. That's all I'm saying. It's not my fault. Zaza's been married 9 times. Her shortest marriage was to... Should we do it one word at a time?
This is longer than the marriage.
Zaza's been married 9 times. Her shortest marriage was to Felipe de Alba from the 13th of April 1983 to the 14th of April 1983. God knows what he asked her to do on their wedding night. There was actually some dispute over that marriage, and Zaza herself says the yacht never got far enough into the international waters to make it legal. I've heard some euphemisms in my time. Lloyd Grossman was the hospital food czar for 5 years until 2006. The following year, his own brand of ready-made soups were found to contain high levels of salt associated with ill health. Though, to be fair, there was a warning on the packet: Lloyd Grossman's face.
Has he upset you in some way?
He just bugs me, all right? Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication Llama Link, the newsletter for members of the British Llama Society. And we start with Alicia Watt on Strictly.
Talks about cheese. No, she did that serious.
Yeah.
I'm being very, very serious.
Yeah. Oh, she said, I'll lift the lid on Strictly.
Apparently the judges know what they're going to say beforehand.
Do they?
I read it.
Really? But she hasn't written the book yet.
I know, I beat down the collider.
I've been down the collider? This Oxford-educated man? I've been down the collider. Christ, smashing them particles in it, I went back to 1678. What's going on? I've been down the collider.
This will be her soon-to-be-written autobiography. And I wonder how many carbon you have. Sorry, it's getting worse. It's been a long day.
You want to get some speech lessons, mate? Go down the collider. Meet up with somebody who knows a bit of yep.
This will all be revealed in her soon-to-be-written autobiography, and I wonder how many copies they'll sell. Oh, the bloody things. I said that was going to happen. 7! Right. I don't think they noticed. I'll do that bit again.
We'll lead into it. I've been down to kilometre.
Yes, this will all be revealed in her soon-to-be-written autobiography, and I wonder how many copies she'll sell of that. Thanks for that. Next, what is great fun both for you and your llamas?
Is it bottling your own vinegar?
What do you mean, your own vinegar?
I don't mean vinegar that's been produced by your body.
That's all right.
I'm not suggesting you tap into the vinegar gland and draw out half a pint. I've been down a kilometre. No, I think it's... Scrabble. Because of the double L. On llamas. Double L on llamas.
It is a high-scoring letter, you're right.
It's not a high-scoring letter, L.
What about two L's together?
Oh, pick me up on it, Picky.
Yeah! I'm just going to sit there making
flippant...
statements.
All right, what is the score for L, Smarty Pants?
I think 1.
Is it?
Yeah.
Tosser.
That's 7.
The answer is showing your llamas. Show us your llamas. Next, Cat signs up what?
Cat signs up Budgie for boxing lessons.
Oh, it's signed up for Twitter?
Yes. It's ordered 17 box sets of Boston Legal. Pressing the click now button. And it's only going, what am I watching all this for? The cat's going, Is that it?
Is it Cat signs up as hypnotherapist?
Well, I'll be. Yes, it is. Well done. How did you know that? Blimey. This is news that Inside Out presenter Chris Jackson... That's not a presenter who's inside out. He presents a programme...
No wonder he got a job in television.
He registered his cat, George, as a therapist with 3 hypnotherapy organisations to highlight the lack of regulation in that industry. George the cat's already got a long list of clients for his hypnotherapy, mainly beagles trying to give up smoking.
Nice to see that comic reference come back.
I know, it's been years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. I've missed that. Beagle smoking.
It's keeping a lot of old jokes alive, this show.
I resemble that remark. Yeah, I told him.
Next, llamas appalled by what at Llama and Donkey Fun Day?
Donkeys attending. They were told it was a llama strictly do. This llama's there. The donkeys turned up. The llamas were really annoyed. Appalled by donkeys at Llama and Donkey Fun Day.
Yes! Fantastic!
Blimey.
Yes. According to Llama Link, the day was wound up by the children voting for the biggest ears. Shame I didn't enter. I could have got a rosette. There you go. Again, Llama Link said the prettiest female competition was won by a llama belonging to the Ives family. Bit of a slap in the face for Mrs. Ives. So, the final scores are Ian and Charlie, 5, but Paul and Arlene have a smashing 9. But before we go, there's just time for the caption competition. Ian and Charlie have this.
Is it frankly ostentatious penguin enclosure opens at London Zoo?
Is one of them saying, they've given us a bottle of red wine and we're eating fish?
Mrs. Penguin looks out the window and thinks to herself, where did it all go wrong?
Paul and Arlene get this.
Is one of them saying, but I don't know which one, what a strange-looking alien?
No, I think he's saying, and what do you do? You come far? Well, another galaxy, obviously.
I've come via the collider!
And I leave you with news that during an episode of Kitchen Nightmares, the head chef at the Cantonese Garden regrets a heated exchange with Gordon Ramsay. And in central London, a clear favourite emerges for the post of deputy mayor. Good night.
Well, guest presenters are all the rage. Blur's Alex James is at the helm for Nevermind the Buzzcocks tomorrow night at 10:50. Now, life is one long ABBA song for a wannabe bride. Sit back and sing along. Muriel's Wedding next, here on BBC Two.
Let's have a look at exactly the sort of thing that will be bound in the... What? Come on, that was good reading. Jeez. I hate it here.